All right, everyone, it's officially time to start configuring our data model and actually wiring up some of these table relationships. And like we talked about, to do this, we're going to be spending quite a bit of time in Power BI's model view. Now, we've already started poking around a bit, but I want to give you a quick rundown of the core components of this view. Up at the top, we've got our menu ribbon with the Home and Help tabs. Here's our model canvas, and like we've seen, this is where we can actually view our tables, the fields they contain, and the relationships between them. We have some view options down in the lower right corner where you can zoom in and out of that canvas or reset the model layout. We talked about the properties pane. That's where we indicated our primary keys in an earlier lesson. It's also where we can do things like change table names, update descriptions and synonyms, or configure formatting. All the way on the right, we've got our data pane or field list. This gives us access to every single table and field inside of our model. And last but not least, you may have noticed that there are tabs available inside of the model view as well. These are called model layout tabs. And later in this section, we're going to talk about why you might want to create different variations or layouts from a larger model. So that's the quick high-level tour. Now, when it comes to actually creating relationships between tables, it's very, very simple, and there are two different ways to do it. Option one, which is the way that I typically do it, and what I'd recommend, is to simply click and drag to connect primary and foreign keys inside of the model view. It's a really intuitive and visual way to create those table relationships. The second option is to launch the Manage Relationships dialog box, and this is actually going to show you small previews of each of the tables that you're connecting, which can be helpful if you're a little bit less familiar with the data or the model that you're working with. So with that, let's roll up our sleeves, jump into our AdventureWorks report in Power BI, and start creating some relationships. Okay, so go ahead and open up your AdventureWorks report file. Your data model view should look something like this, and I'll start by showing you how to create a relationship using the second option, which is a little bit slower. But to do that, we're going to head to the Home tab and click this Manage Relationships button. That's going to open up the Manage Relationships dialog box. And we have two options here right off the bat: New Relationship or Auto Detect. And Auto Detect, as you might expect, basically is asking Power BI to analyze the model, find primary and foreign key relationships, and create those relationships automatically. That can be helpful. It can be a shortcut at times, but in my experience, I found that it sometimes misses some of the table relationships. So I prefer to configure these relationships myself, and that's what we're going to do in this demo. So let's go ahead and click New Relationship. And here we can define the two tables that we're trying to relate to one another. In this case, let's choose our customer lookup table. You can see a nice little preview of records here. We're going to connect that customer table to our fact table, which is sales data. And check this out. Power BI automatically detected that customer key was our primary key from our customer lookup table, and that it maps to the customer key column in our sales data table. And you'll see some additional notes down here about the cardinality, the cross-filter direction, whether the relationship is active. We're going to talk about all of those different features and what they mean in just a bit. But for now, this is all we need to do. We're just going to click OK and close. And Power BI is going to do its thing and check that out. It created that relationship between our customer lookup and sales tables. And if I hover over, you can see that it highlights the fields from both of those tables, including that primary key in the customer lookup. So that's one way to create a relationship. The other way, which I prefer, is to simply grab one of the keys. You can either grab the primary or the foreign. In either direction, it doesn't matter. In this case, let's connect territory to sales. I'm going to grab that territory key, click and hold, and map it to the primary key, sales territory key in the territory lookup table. And boom, there we go. We've created a new relationship with just one click of the mouse. And like we've been talking about, the beauty of this is that now we're able to reach into the territory lookup table, reach into the customer lookup table, and retrieve fields from both of those tables to break down our sales data, just like we would if we were to write hundreds or thousands and thousands of lookup functions in a tool like Excel. So this just makes it so much easier and so much more scalable. All right, next up, let's connect calendar to our sales data table. One thing you might have realized is that we've got that date primary key in the calendar table, but we actually have two different date fields in our sales data. We've got order date and we've got stock date. So there are potentially two different relationships that could make sense here. We're going to talk about that in more depth when we talk about active versus inactive relationships later in the section. But for now, what we really care about is when the order was placed. So that's going to be based on the order date field. So let's go ahead and we'll go the other direction here just for kicks. We'll grab that date primary field, connect it to the order date foreign key in the sales data table, and we've got that relationship all set. Looks great. And now before I create that relationship between sales and product, I want to jump back to our report view. And remember this matrix visual that we created? It's still showing that same grand total for order quantity because right now those two tables are still essentially islands. They're disconnected, so there's no way to break down these sales fields like order quantity by any field in our product table. But that's all about to change now when we create this relationship. So let's grab product key, map it to product key in the lookup table. There we go. And drum roll, please. Let's head back to our report view. And boom, check this out. We've got actual accurate values for our order quantities broken down by product names, all because we created that relationship between those two tables. And that means that now any other field in the product table is fair game, not just product name. So let's jump back to our model view. I'm actually going to hold off on connecting these other two product tables, the category and subcategory tables. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to handle those when we talk about star and snowflake schemas. But for now, this is looking good. Congratulations, you've officially created your first relational data model.